Gonzaga is red hot on the recruiting trail, securing a visit from the top prospect in the 2027 class. Can the Zags land a commitment from baby KD?
You are Locked On Zags, your daily podcast on the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, y'all? Welcome into the Locked On Zags podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host and longtime Gonzaga podcaster, Andy Patton, here to bring you news and updates on all things Zag athletics. Today's episode of Locked On Zags is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances by using Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com and you'll get 50% off your first year. Well, folks, Drew Timme and Ryan Nembhard likely done in the NBA Summer League. We'll recap their experience, plus discuss a way too early bracketology projection from CBS, what it means for the Zags, where they're projected this upcoming March. But first, we continue to talk recruiting here, as Mark Few and the Gonzaga Bulldogs have been very, very busy out on the recruiting trail in both the 2026 and 2027 recruiting classes. The latest update coming our way on Thursday late morning is that the Zags are set to host the number one ranked recruit in the 2027 class, Baba Oladotun. He is a 6'9" small forward from Silver Springs, Maryland. And we knew that Gonzaga was interested in Baba. This is something that I think it was June 20th, 22nd, somewhere in there, late June, that the Zags made an offer to Baba. And again, he's the number one ranked player in that class. According to 247 Sports, they have him number one in the class and number one in their consensus rankings. On threes, a little bit lower. On Oladotun, they have him fourth in the class, second among small forwards. I think they had him third, and then they bumped him down one spot in their most recent rankings. But an incredibly, extraordinarily talented player. And for Gonzaga, we know that there is a report of a visit. This was reported by Jacob Polacek of On3, who is a Kentucky reporter and was talking about Baba's recruitment from Kentucky's perspective, but mentioned that there's a few schools that are looking to have him on campus, and mentioned Gonzaga and said that they're planning to have him on campus in October. So no date was officially revealed. The general expectation here is that Gonzaga is likely trying to get Baba on campus the weekend of October 3rd through 5th, which is the weekend of craziness in the kennel. It's also the weekend that one of Gonzaga's other primary targets, 2026 center Sam Funches, is set to take his official visit. It's also not clear whether this would be an official or unofficial visit. I imagine Gonzaga is wanting to get Oladotun on campus for an official visit if they can. So I would expect it to be that, but again, that's not been confirmed by this report. Another, I think, key part of this conversation, key part of this recruitment, is that while Oladotun is the number one prospect in the 2027 class, it has been reported that he is potentially considering reclassifying to 2026, meaning he would join the college basketball ranks a year early. And again, could be part of that 2026 recruiting class for Gonzaga, which could make it more interesting that he is potentially taking a visit at the same time as Sam Funches. They could both be freshmen together in Spokane if they ended up hitting it off and deciding they wanted to play together at the same time. That could push Oladotun to potentially move up his graduation timeline and join whatever college program, ideally Gonzaga, in 2026 instead of 2027. Again, 6'9" small forward from Silver Spring, Maryland. He's been playing extremely well on the summer circuit. That's why he's maintained his spot among at or near the top of that 2027 class. He was one of just 24 underclassmen who was in attendance at the NBPA Top 100 camp earlier this summer. He made the all-camp team, averaging 16.5 points per game. Again, as one of the youngest players at the event, he's just an elite shot maker. The baby KD moniker has followed him around for a while, and I always think it's never fair to immediately put comparisons for high school players or young players that are at that level. The amount of players who have been labeled Baby Shaq, for example, over the last 25 years, numerous, almost none of them. In fact, I can say confidently none of them have reached this same threshold as Shaquille O'Neal. So Baby Shaq, Baby KD, I don't love them. I think it puts unfair expectations on young people, but I can understand the comparisons for Oladotun, not because necessarily he's obviously that skilled. It's hard to say. He's 16 years old, but he's 6'9", and I believe was listed at on three as 165 pounds at 6'9". Like that makes Chet Holmgren look like a bodybuilder. Like that is incredibly skinny. I believe the scouting report said that he's a few cheeseburgers away from being considered skinny. Like that is how small and kind of slight of frame Oladotun is. And that doesn't mean that he'll fill out. He's still a kid. He's still, under 18. He's got a lot of growth still to be done. But obviously even at this age, the odds of him like significantly filling out, he'll get bigger, but if he were to get way, way bigger, that would potentially slow him down. So he's going to probably always be a slight of frame, tall, lengthy shot maker. So he's always going to look a little bit like KD. So I understand where those comparisons come from, even if I think it's a little unfair to put that kind of pressure on the young man. He is a very, very gifted scorer. He has elite footwork. He's just a very fluid athlete, moves well. He's primarily an offensive scorer right now. I think the defense, again, that slight frame is a bit of a concern on that end, but not enough to project that he will be a negative in that space. Just maybe not, an all conference type defensive player or all defensive player or anything like that. But the shot making, the 3-point shooting, the overall offensive skill and feel for the game is top notch at this point. And to that point, that's why just about every school in the country wants to land him and bring him into their program for either this upcoming, the next season or the season after that, depending if he reclassifies or not. Baba received over 15 offers just in the month of June after the period where you can begin making offers to that recruiting class started. Kentucky is one of the first. UCLA has been in on him for a long time. Other programs, it's a pretty hearty list of schools: Kansas, Louisville, Miami, Oregon, Michigan, Indiana, Texas, Villanova, USC, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on and on. A tremendous group of programs here. Kentucky's been very invested, very involved. UCLA, I know, has made a big push as well, but he hasn't listed a lot of schools that he's planning to visit, and Gonzaga is one of the schools on that list. So no matter how you spin this is a good thing for Mark Few and the Zags. We know that Mark Few and the Zags also had heard that they were planning to have a visit with Tyron Stokes, who's the number one recruit in the 2026 class at this point, and we have not heard any follow-up on that, and it does not sound like that visit has or is happening, so it's possible that same situation could happen here. You never know, but for Gonzaga, the fact that a few of the top players in the entire country in high school basketball have indicated visiting or are planning to visit, or in the case of Ikenna Elozi, one of the top point guards in the 2026 class, has listed Gonzaga in his top 8. Proof that this program is really invested in recruiting 5-star caliber talent, and has had a lot of success in those conversations and has made inroads with some of the best players in the country in high school basketball right now. In the 2027 class, now Baba is one of 3 players that Gonzaga is targeting in that class alongside Jalen Davis and Dooney Johnson. We talked about Jalen Davis earlier this week. He's a 6'2" guard from Bremerton, Washington, the 34th ranked player in the 2027 class at 247, 9th ranked point guard, number 1 player in the state of Washington. His dad played at Pacific back in the early 2000s. Would be very cool to bring another local hometown kid to Spokane to play for the Zags. And then Dooney Johnson's a 6'5" guard from Wisconsin, 19th ranked player in the 2027 class. He was 39th at On 3, and in their updated rankings actually fell all the way to 74th. There's a little bit of concern about Dooney, at least from the folks at On 3. For what it's worth, Gonzaga has contacted Dooney Johnson, but they have not made him a formal offer yet. So for now, I think the priority in that 2027 class appears to be Oladotun as well as Jalen Davis from Bremerton. Well, folks, Gonzaga's seed in the way too early CBS Bracketology report, it might end up being bulletin board material for the Zags, even if their first round matchup is kind of a fun one. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But first, folks, do you ever wish managing your money just felt a little bit easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's kind of like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility of and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a generic budgeting app, though. It is a complete financial command center where you can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. I found that it's just so convenient and simple for me to have everything all in one app instead of having to remember to use a bunch of different apps or keep track of things on a spreadsheet. Just having one spot where all of it is much, much, much easier. It makes managing that day to day just so simple. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. All right, folks, segment 2, still Andy Patton, still Locked On Zags podcast. Moving away from our recruiting talk for today's show to talk about the latest bracketology report from CBS. Yes, folks, you heard me right. We're talking bracketology, even though it is the middle of July, months and months away, not from March. We're months and months away from the basketball season even starting. It is way too early. It is ludicrously too early to be making these predictions, but it's fun. It's fun to take a look at where kind of people in the media, where folks have this Gonzaga team sort of projected, where they envision them at this point, knowing that while Gonzaga's roster is probably done, or at least very close to being done, we're still waiting on a waiver for Tyon Grant-Foster, which is a huge factor in terms of Gonzaga's ceiling and floor for this upcoming season. We don't know yet exactly what kind of role somebody like Mario Saint-Superi is going to play for this team. There's a lot of, and every team out there has question marks around their program right now, but it's still fun to see where Gonzaga is kind of projected at this point. And the report, this was from David Cobb of CBS. It was on, I believe, Tuesday or Wednesday of this past week, had Gonzaga as a number 6 seed. A 6 seed in the Midwest region. I believe that would actually put them in Portland, which would be very cool for me personally and many of you who are in the Pacific Northwest area. Also, I think Gonzaga would be fairly happy if they were a 6 seed as opposed to being a top 4 seed, which I know is always the goal for the program. A 6 seed playing locally, there are much worse things that you could get. In this particular bracket from CBS, Gonzaga would play the winner of a play-in game between 11 seeds Georgetown and Boise State, which that would be quite fun because either you get Georgetown, which is a very fun team under new coach Ed. I say new coach. I think he's entering his 3rd year for Ed Cooley at Georgetown, kind of a rebuilding program that has not been good the last few years. So if they were to be good enough this year to make the tournament, it would be a big story for the Hoyas. Or you play Boise State. Boise State, of course, this would be a fun kind of preview game for Gonzaga joining the Pac-12 with the Broncos the season after this upcoming season. Also, it would pit Mark Few against his longtime friend and former Gonzaga assistant coach Leon Rice, who's been the head coach at Boise State for over 10 years now, has been the most successful basketball coach in Boise State history. I'll tell you what, like we would think it's fun. Gonzaga versus Boise State in the final tournament before their conference mates is a fun storyline. I can tell you with absolute confidence that Mark Few and Leon Rice would hate this. They have indicated this. They do not want to play each other. They are very close friends, and they don't want to do it. They don't want to put themselves in that position. Obviously, they would in this circumstance, and they're going forward in the conference. But this would not be fun for them. But it'd be a pretty fun matchup, just from a storyline narrative perspective for us Gonzaga fans. The winner of that game in this bracket would play the winner of the 3 seed versus 14 seed. That is the 3 seed BYU Cougars versus the 14 seed South Dakota State Jackrabbits. So Gonzaga could, in theory, get Boise State and BYU in 2 of their first games in this bracket, which is, there's some storylines, that's for darn sure. BYU obviously bringing in the number 1 recruit in the 2025 class in AJ Dibansa, 6'9", flame-throwing scorer from deep, who's just a tremendous all-around athlete and player. They also brought in Rob Wright, a transfer from Baylor, who's tremendous. Richie Saunders is back. That's a very, very good BYU team. I would not be surprised if they are in the conversation as a 3, maybe even a 2 seed out of the Big 12. The rest of the Midwest region in this bracket shakes out as such. Houston is the number 1 seed, so for Gonzaga, they could get a crack and play in Houston once again. Michigan is the 2 seed. BYU, as we said, is the 3 seed. UCLA is the 4 seed. Kansas, the 5 seed. Gonzaga, the 6. North Carolina is the 7 seed. Iowa, the 8 seed, 9 seed. NC State, 10 seed is St. Mary's, because why not put as many potential storylines for Gonzaga as you possibly can in the same bracket? You have a rematch of last year's round of 32 game with BYU or with Houston. You have former conference mates in BYU as the 3 seed. You have the always popular Gonzaga versus UCLA matchup on tap with UCLA as the 4 seed. Rematch of 2 years ago in the tournament against Kansas as the 5 seed. Rematch of the 2017 national championship, North Carolina as the 7 seed. And then, of course, you get St. Mary's as the 10 seed. So there is a lot of potential intrigue in the way that this bracket shakes out for Gonzaga on that Midwest line. And I think some of the seeding here is a bit interesting to me. I get BYU as a 3 seed. I think that makes sense. Michigan as a 2 seed. Fine. I'm not super confident in their guard play, but they bring in Yaxel Lendeberg, and I think he's going to be great. Houston, absolutely. Yeah, they're going to be a 1 seed this year, most likely. UCLA, they bring in Donovan Dent from New Mexico. He's tremendous. He's really, really good. Very, very likely All-American candidate in the backcourt for them. But I don't know, until Mick Cronin proves it to me, I'm not going to believe that this is a top 5 seeded team. I haven't seen them look that good in the last couple of years. And so I'm skeptical at best for them. I'm also very skeptical of Kansas. Kansas has not been very good the last couple of years. They're bringing in the number 2 freshman in the country besides AJ Dibansa, and that would be Darren Peterson. And he's excellent. And they keep Flory Badunga, their starting center. And Hunter Dickinson's gone, which might be an addition by subtraction for the Jayhawks. But let me put it this way. If I was a betting man and I was betting who's going to have a higher seed in the NCAA tournament in 2026 right now between Gonzaga and Kansas, I'm smashing Gonzaga. I'm smashing the Gonzaga button. I think they're going to have a higher seed. And maybe I'm a little bit of a homer, but this is more me being a Kansas hater than even a Gonzaga fan at this point. North Carolina is a 7 seed. Yeah, they need to prove it still too. They got a really good freshman coming in, but I'm not super thrilled about the rest of their team, so we'll see. St. Mary's as a 10 seed feels about right. I think they're going to be good enough to get into the dance. Paulus Morauskas is excellent. Mikey Lewis will take a leap, but the rest of that guard play is just really, really questionable at this point. We'll see what some of the guys who redshirted last year look like stepping into bigger roles. They bring in Tony Duckett from San Diego, but I'm not sure I feel great about the Gales, but I'll tell you what, Randy Bennett tends to get the most out of his guys, and I trust him to do that with this club as well. Looking at the top seeds, this is just the top teams for each of the top 6 seeds. For the 1 seeds, you have Houston, of course, as well as Florida, Purdue, and St. John's. No qualms here. That all seems about right. 2 seeds, Michigan, UConn, Kentucky, and Duke. Couple blue bloods in that group right there. Kentucky, a very, very new look roster, but they're the deepest team in college basketball. They're like 1 through 15 deep, which is crazy, but we got to see how all those pieces come together. UConn were not very good last year. I think they're going to be better, but I'm maybe not quite ready to put them on the 2 line. They have Texas Tech as a 4 seed, and I think for me, that would be a flip for me. I would put Texas Tech on the 2 line, and I would put UConn on the 4 line. 3 seeds, BYU, Louisville, Alabama, Tennessee, no real issues there. 4 seeds, UCLA, Texas Tech, Iowa State, and Auburn. 5 seeds, Kansas, Illinois, Arkansas, and Arizona. So that's where you get Tommy Lloyd and John Calipari on that 5 line. I feel pretty good about that. I'm maybe not quite there on Arkansas yet, but it's not egregious to project them there with the amount of talent coming into that program. And then joining Gonzaga on the 6 seed line is San Diego State, Michigan State, and their opponent early in the season, the Blue Jays of Creighton. Speaking of that, here's kind of a layout for all of Gonzaga's opponents that are in this field projected by CBS. As we mentioned, Kentucky, a 2 seed who Gonzaga is going to play in early December in Nashville. Alabama, a 3 seed, their first matchup in the Players Era Festival in Las Vegas. UCLA, a 4 seed, Gonzaga playing them at the Climate Pledge Arena this year in mid-December. Creighton is a 6 seed. Gonzaga is playing them in Spokane in early November. Baylor is an 8 seed. We don't know when or where Gonzaga is playing Baylor, but we know that they have a series ongoing with them, so we should see an update on when and where that game is in the not too distant future. Bears, not a single player returning from last year's team. They do add Mikey Ratai from Oregon State, if you remember him. He is an absolute dude, and he's going to be a problem for Baylor next year. St. Mary's on the 10 line, as we said, and then Gonzaga's other opponent in the Players Era Festival, the Terrapins of Maryland, are a number 11 seed. So for Gonzaga, a game they should, in theory, win based on these projections here from CBS. Well, folks, Drew Timme and Ryan Nembhard are likely done in the NBA Summer League. We're going to break down their performances, talk about some of the other guys playing Summer League, and more, all coming up here in just a second. All right, folks, segment 3, still Andy Patton, still Locked On Zags podcast. And we're once again, as we've done pretty much all week, we are closing out the show by looking at our summer league results for former Gonzaga players participating in the Las Vegas-based league that goes until July 20th. So we're almost done with being able to recap this. And as we are not surprised by this, but the players that kind of have done enough in summer league to either secure their spots or put themselves in a position to be in a good spot heading into training camp, they're not playing anymore. So the superstars, the Cooper Flags of the draft are not playing. We're not surprised by that. But on Wednesday, in full transparency, I'm recording the show early afternoon on Thursday, so I do not have any Thursday results for you. So if you're listening on Friday, we're not going to have updates on those Thursday Summer League games. We'll get to them next week. But on Wednesday, 3 of the 4 players for Gonzaga who were on rosters on teams that played, 3 of them did not play. One of them was Drew Timme, one of them was Ryan Nembhard, one of them was Caliph Battle. Obviously for Timme and Nembhard, it's kind of a, hey, we're good. We've seen enough. For Battle, it was probably just the Suns have been kind of rotating in and out of playing guys. We've seen this like with Nolan Hickman and Ben Gregg too, of like you either play 8 to 10 minutes or you don't play. And it's not really a punishment or anything like that. It's more of we just need to see as many different guys as we possibly can. So for Caliph Battle does not play on Wednesday at this point. Through Summer League, Battle's averaging 4 points, 1.3 boards, and 1 assist in about 14 minutes a game, shooting just 41% on 2-pointers, 33% from 3, but he is shooting 83% from the free throw line. I think it's possible that Caliph Battle plays at least one more game for Phoenix, so he's not necessarily done, but hasn't done it. He hasn't done much in Summer League, and I think for those of you who are longtime listeners or daily listeners of the show, you heard that I did a prediction episode about Summer League, and I kind of said, hey, I think Caliph Battle is somebody who could really pop in Summer League. And he didn't really get the opportunity to, but when he did get, he started a game for Phoenix and he scored 7 points in that game. Even in this game, he played 14 minutes. Like, I've seen Caliph Battle score 20 points in less than 14 minutes. Like, I know he's capable of it. And he wasn't aggressive enough. He wasn't able to get to his spots enough. It wasn't a great showing for him, which is unfortunate because anything less than a phenomenal performance from Caliph Battle wasn't going to be good enough. So he'll probably get a spot in the G League or he'll go overseas if that's what he wants to do. But he didn't do enough here to get an Exhibit 10 contract or an invitation to training camp or anything like that. Drew Timme did not play for the Nets. That's not a surprise. They've seen all they need to see from Big Drew after 3 games for Brooklyn, where he averaged 25.3 points, 8 boards, and 2.7 assists. He shot just over 66% on his 2-point attempts. He unfortunately did not shoot it well from 3, 21.5% from beyond the arc and about 64% from the free throw line. But Big Drew was great, putting up 20-point performances. He had a 30-point game, MVP chance, was just doing exactly, he looked like Gonzaga Drew. Like, he looked exactly like that player that was a 3-time All-American in Spokane. The numbers are pretty similar to that. It was so fun to see Drew playing basketball like we're so used to seeing him do. So that was a lot of fun. And I'm going to miss watching Drew do that because he's not going to get those opportunities, at least not in the start of the NBA season. Maybe at the end of the year, like last year, he'll get some more run. But it was fun to see Drew balling out in Summer League. Ryan Nembhard did not play for the Mavericks in their game either. Kind of same thing. He was sitting on the bench next to Cooper Flag. It was kind of cool to see Dallas saying, okay, these are the 2 guys that we feel good about out of this draft class. And for good reason. Nembhard in 3 games with Dallas averaged 11.3 points, 6.7 assists, and 2.7 rebounds, played about 30 minutes a night. 43% on 2-pointers, so wasn't super efficient. Obviously, the sample size is very small here, 33% from 3, 83% from the line. Ryan did more than enough to prove he belongs in the NBA and certainly is earning that 2-way contract that he signed with Dallas shortly after the conclusion of the 2025 NBA draft. Nolan Hickman did play. He was the only Zag, with the exception of Hunter Sallis, who I'll talk about in a second, who played on Wednesday. Hickman played 9 minutes, did not have a great game, unfortunately. 0 points, didn't take any shots, so he wasn't breaking a bunch of shots, but didn't get any shots up. Had 2 assists and a rebound, but also had 3 turnovers. He did guard Hunter Sallis most of the time that they were playing against each other, which is fun for these 2 guys who have been longtime friends, were freshmen together in that Gonzaga freshman class back in 2021. And Salas didn't play great either, so Hickman's defense was probably a factor in that space. Salas did have 9 points and 5 boards. He was 4 of 7 on 2-pointers, including a nice baseline drive for a dunk, but he was 0 of 4 from 3. And folks, Salas needs to prove desperately that the three-point shooting, where he had one good year in college as a three-point shooter, he needs to prove that that's the norm and not the exception, and not shooting it well in the summer league is not going to help him because if there's a doubt about his ability to space the floor, that's going to really hurt his chances of sticking in the NBA. Like I said, I'm recording this before any of the games get started on Thursday. So for those of you on YouTube, you may be listening before those games are over. The Knicks, who roster, of course, Anton Watson, are playing at 1:30 on Thursday Pacific time. The Grizzlies, where Jeremy Jones is playing, are playing at 3 Pacific time. And then Ben Gregg's Boston Celtics playing at 6. If you're listening to this on Friday, the Dallas Mavericks with Nembhard and Hickman. Again, probably wouldn't expect to see Nembhard, but you might see Hickman. That game's at 1 p.m. on Friday. And then the Nets play at 3 p.m., although I don't think that you will see Drew Timme in that one. Folks, expect a recap on all of the Summer League action sometime early next week as we get through the Summer League portion of the offseason. But that's going to wrap it up for me today here on the Locked On Zags podcast and for this week. Thank you so much to those of you who have made this show your first listen or your first watch of the week. I really appreciate it. And those of you who are on the Locked On Zags Discord community, and those of you who have hit that subscribe button on YouTube, there's a little bell button. Just hit that if you're on there and you haven't done so yet. It's free, completely free. Gives you notifications every time there is a new show. Helps me out. So I very much appreciate those of you willing to do that. I'm going to be out of town next week, but I'm going to pre-record some shows for you all. So we should have some fun stuff still coming your way, including, again, some recaps of Summer League, more updates on recruiting, all that fun stuff. Thanks again, folks. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend. And as always, go Zags.